Hi everyone, Barudan Eggs is back with another video. Today we're going to see why Soul Society arc Ichigo is nowhere near close to being planetary. The Bleach verse has become so overrated that now it's a general consensus to think that Ichigo, in the very first big arc of the series, was already planetary in terms of AP and durability, which is mind-boggling. Let's not waste any more time and start the video by looking at how people came to that conclusion. Everyone will pull out this out of context scan and say that the Sokyoku held the power to destroy not only the Seiretai, but the whole Soul Society too. Frankly, if used in context, this statement doesn't hold much value. That statement was made by Hinamori while she was reading the letter that Aizen wrote to her before faking his own death. And I repeat, Aizen wrote that letter, someone who lies for sport. The goal of Aizen was to depict Toshiro as the culprit of his death, and brainwash Hinamori to think so in order to make sure that Toshiro and her would have killed each other in battle. How are you going to take something stated in a letter full of lies without feats to back that hypothetical feat up for true? For starters, we must understand what Aizen meant in that letter with Soul Society. Soul Society doesn't automatically mean the whole planet. It can also mean the actual society composed of the Seiretai and Rukongai, where souls live. As we saw before, the Sokyoku having the power to destroy the Soul Society was a lie, but let's say that it was true for a moment. That would be super inconsistent with the scaling that we have in the next arcs. In chapter 345, Ulquiorra stated that two things were forbidden under the canopy of Les Notches: the usage of the Gran Rey Zero and the release by Espadas beyond number 4. And why was that? Because those two things would have destroyed Les Notches itself in the process. To understand how big of a feat is that, we need to look at the size of Les Notches first. In chapter 248, Neliel claimed that it would take 3 days of walk to get to the nearest gate in Les Notches. By using the average human speed as a way to measure each side of Les Notches in kilometers, people then found the length of each side, which was 360 kilometers. Then they calculated the energy output required to destroy the entirety of Les Notches. I'll leave you the calc right here, so you can see how they got the final result, which is small country level. This was a fine method to try and find the energy output required to destroy the entirety of Les Notches. However, we got a visual representation of that place, and guess what? Les Notches was just a giant building, nowhere near the size we obtained with the calc prior. In chapter 345, we could actually see that Ulquiorra's height was comparable to the size of one of the poles on top of Les Notches. Then, in chapter 347, we could see that those poles could be compared to the size of Les Notches itself. By using some simple pixel scaling, we can come to the conclusion that Les Notches has a length nearing 5.6 kilometers. However, even this representation contradicts Neliel's statement, and by a lot too, since in order to take 3 days to travel 5.6 kilometers only, they would have had to walk at the speed of a turtle. This size scaling is contradicted even by other visuals of Les Notches. For example, in chapter 351. During these two shots, we could see that the size of Les Notches varied from 9 to 14 kilometers. So there isn't a real accepted size for Les Notches, since all the measurements contradicts each other in some kind of way. At this point, the only realistic thing we can do is using the low-end scaling, which is 5.6 kilometers for each side of the building. And the result of the calc would give a value that is way below small country level, since in that calc, as we saw before, it was used a value of 360 kilometers for each side instead of 5.6. A way stronger version of Ichigo than the one that blocked the Sokyoku post-visored training got humiliated by base Ulquiorra, who didn't use neither the Gran Rey Zero nor his resurrection, which are the moves that could blow up Les Notches. Meaning that Ichigo at that point didn't even have the durability and consequently the AP to destroy giant buildings. But people think he could destroy an entire society. Like how? This should tell you that the Sokyoku being able to destroy the Soul Society was a blatant lie. Now, for those who believe that the Sokyoku had the power to destroy not only the Seiretai plus Rukongai, but the entire planet, I'm sorry, but you are lost. Everything I said until now debunks that notion. That point doesn't make any sense. Let's see why. Yamamuro, someone who Yuha thought no Sternritter could control the power of his Bankai, wasn't able to destroy the Soul Society in one blow, but he was going to do that slowly and over time. Basically, by saying that Ichigo blocked a planetary attack in the first arc of Bleach, you are indirectly saying that Soul Society arc Shikai Ichigo was way stronger than 1000 Years Blood War arc Yamamuro, which is a dumb and outrageous take. Also, not even Yuha was able to destroy the Soul Society in one hit, and he was like the peak of power in the verse, excluding the Prime Soul King. So no, Soul Society arc Ichigo wasn't planetary in AP, and the Sokyoku having that power was also a lie that was written on Aizen's letter, and I've shown enough evidence to prove that. Now, another statement Bleach wankers love to use to overhype the Sokyoku is the one made by Soifon about the Sokyoku having the power of 1 million Zanpakutos. Well, that statement could mean all and nothing. If the average Zanpakuto of the average Shinigami has the power to destroy just a wall, for example, 1 million of them won't magically make that feat something insane. Up until that point of the series, we saw no good destructive feats even when captains fought, so having the destructive power of 1 million weak Zanpakutos is neither a good feat nor a scalable one. Now, this point is probably the most ridiculous, but bear with me. Many Bleach wankers will pull up this databook scan and say that since the Sokyoku surpassed everything in existence, it had universal DC. Honestly, that's laughable, and I would say almost disturbing, that some people really believe this. That was a clear hyperbolic statement. People say that the Sokyoku had the power to overwhelm everything in existence, but as we saw in the same chapters in which it was used, Yukatake and Kyoraku were able to easily destroy the Sokyoku. So yeah, this one was easily debunkable too. Now let's see the dumbest of these metas to wank the Sokyoku. And be ready, because this one is absolutely pathetic. Many Bleach fans think that with Soul Society, Aizen intended the whole universe, but again, that was disproved by the fact that he was lying and by the feats performed in the latter arcs. The Sokyoku having so much power wasn't even possible for the reasons I'm about to show you. First of all, the Soul Society isn't a universe. Soul Society, Earth, and World of the Living are confirmed to exist within the same universe multiple times in manga, anime, novels, and even in the movies. The Soul Society was never, ever stated to be its own separate universal space-time. If anything, the first Bleach databook, it's explicitly stating that it's parallel to the planet Earth in size and population, which debunk any attempt to make Soul Society seem bigger than the Earth. The Soul Society, being its own separate space-time, got debunked even harder by the Bleach canon movie, Memories of Nobody. Kubo himself told the readers to watch that specific movie at the end of chapter 627. In the movie Memories of Nobody, Kisuke briefly explained the cosmology of Bleach, and he stated that the world of the living and the Soul Society are in the same universe, debunking every attempt of wanking those singular planets to universal-sized separate dimensions. In the same movie, it was stated that a town from the world of the living suddenly appeared above the Seiretai, a town from the universe, would never make sense in this context. It's counterintuitive. Universe is very expansive and town is very specific. It's obvious that they were just talking about a town from the planet Earth. As Kisuke stated after, the world of the living was being visible from the Soul Society. If the world of the livings was really a universe, we should have seen galaxies and stars, but no, only the planet Earth itself was being visible. Toshiro then explained that the Valley of Screams had connected the world of the living with the Soul Society. Then, he went on saying that there was no way that a tunnel connecting to Hoshi could have been created naturally. The problem in that is the fact that Toshiro called the world of the living and the Soul Society Hoshi, which can either mean star or planet. Here, it was translated as star, but we know from the context above that he was talking about planets. Hoshi is not a generic term for any celestial body. The term for celestial body or heavenly body is Tentai. The last piece of evidence I'm about to show to you clearly confirm the fact that the Soul Society and the world of the livings are just planets surrounded by the Garganta. Later in that movie, we saw the Earth and the Soul Society on a collision course with each other, and we could see visible atmospheres on the spheres representing Earth and Soul Society, hence debunking them as universes. I know some Bleach wankers will come here and say that universes can be represented as spheres. The problem is that no universal model in the scientific community shows the universes to be covered in clouds. Someone will say that the two worlds were called dimensions, so they should be bigger than just planets. But that's straight up wrong. Dimension can vary in size and scale in all type of fiction. For example, Yukio's dimension wasn't universal in size, but only a copy of Karakura Town. With the three main examples that I've made before, it should be clear that the two worlds are not universes, but just planets. When Hollows invaded the Earth, we could literally see that they came from the Garganta, and that the Garganta is the thing that surrounds the world, not a universe that doesn't exist outside the planets. If the realms were really universes, we should have seen Hollows coming from the universe. But no, they simply came from the Garganta into the real world, proving that the Earth and the Soul Society are planets only. Now, let's look at other manga panels which will prove that the Soul Society and the world of the living are just planets. When Hollows aren't chasing souls, they hide between world of the living and Soul Society. We can't locate it until it shows up in the real world to attack Chad. That's why we wait for orders from the Soul Society. Real world here is referring to the planet Earth, because that's where the Hollow will show up to attack Chad. Soul Society here is referring to the planet Soul Society, because that's where the orders will come from. An equal amount of souls must be maintained in the Soul Society and this world at all times. We know that souls are maintained by the Soul Reapers only on the planet Soul Society and planet Earth. The scope of the show never goes beyond these planets in their respective domains. Therefore, Soul Society is once again referring to a planet in this statement, and this world is referring to the planet Earth. It's the job of Soul Reapers to adjust the number of souls in the two worlds being planet Earth and planet Soul Society. Those are the two places/worlds where Soul Reapers actively operate and do their jobs. The souls released by the Soul Society are accounted for by the Soul Reapers when they are born into earthly creatures. The souls that die here are returned to the Soul Society. It doesn't get any more direct than this. We know the souls are released from the Soul Society planet, and they are born into this world as earthly creatures, clearly referring to Earth and creatures on Earth. And they go back to the Soul Society planet when they die in this world, the Earth. From above context, it's pretty blatant that they talk about the Soul Society planet when they say Soul Society and Earth when they say this world, real world or world of the living. Sending souls to the world of the living from the Soul Society as living organisms, guiding dead souls to the Soul Society without discrimination. By doing so, we keep an eye on the total number of souls and adjust the balance with the world of the livings accordingly. It's blatant once again. Soul Reapers send souls to the Earth from the Soul Society planet as living organisms, which obviously exists only on the Earth. They guide the dead souls from Earth back to Soul Society planet, and they keep track of all the souls present on the worlds to keep the balance. Quinces completely extinguish souls that have become hollows. That means souls that were sent to the world of the livings disappear without ever returning to the Soul Society. Where do quinces extinguish souls? On Earth, the so-called world of the livings. And therefore, the souls on Earth do not return back to the Soul Society planet. Both worlds would collapse. Again, note that just like Rukia's statement above, the world of the livings and the Soul Society are being referred to as just worlds. Here are other instances in which it was pretty blatant that the Soul Society, and consequently the world of the livings, were just planets. We saw that only the moisture of the planet's atmosphere was burning up, which makes sense because outer space doesn't have moisture. So again, a pretty blatant instance of Soul Society only referring to the planet. Yamamuro adds more consistency by saying that he will burn Yuha and the Soul Society to the ground. The universe is obviously no ground, so once again Soul Society was being referred as a planet only. Do I want to breathe the air, you ask? The air of that pitiful Soul Society that is about to be crushed by Yuha. Air of that pitiful Soul Society. Do I, by any chance, really need to explain how this is not referring to the universe, but the planet only? When Yuha was talking about destroying the Soul Society and the world of the living, as a result, we saw tremors only on those two planets, Earth and Soul Society, not across the universes. As you can see, not even once in the whole manga, the two realms were used in a context of universes, but just as planets. Let's use some other examples. When Soul Reapers die, their body turns into Reishi and is reclaimed by the soil of the Soul Society. Reishi, that is, third class and above, can never return to the soil of the Soul Society. Just like the moisture example, the universe has no soil, so in this context, the Soul Society was referred as a planet once again. In the film Memories of Nobody, Toshiro was being assigned to head the operation to check out the spiritual waves in the world of the livings. So he came to the planet Earth in order to do so. He wasn't floating in an hypothetical universe carrying out his mission. In the French translation of the data book Unmasked, the entire world of the living is referred as the Earth, so as a planet. In the end, the Soul Society and the world of the living are just planets covered in the Garganta. They aren't planets inside whole separate universes. I know someone will use the same old counter-argument of, but there are stars in those realms, they can't be just planets. However, even if this is unofficial, this map of the Bleach cosmology is like the most correct one that you can find. This map would explain why all the planets are covered in the Garganta, but they still have day and night cycles, plus visible stars at night. In conclusion, even the meta of the Sokyoku having universal AP and DC is absolutely laughable, since the realms aren't universal in size to begin with, and it would be super inconsistent with all the feats that we've seen before. So, yeah, Soul Society arc Ichigo is beyond overrated in terms of strength, and he's nowhere near planetary in AP, let alone universal. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and share the video if you want to see more content like this one, and see you next time. Peace.